So today's episode is going to be an interesting one. It's a little bit of a lesson on boundaries. It's a little bit of a lesson on self-care. And it's an announcement about what's next for the I Wonder podcast and YouTube channel. A while ago, when I was really in the thick of studying the art and science of boundaries and healthy relationships for people, I read a quote and I cannot remember who it is and also can't really find it again. So I wish I could credit it, but just know it's not me. It was someone, much more in it than I am. And essentially the quote was something to the effect of, boundaries are the distance with which I can love both you and myself. And I loved that as a summary because I think the word boundaries is really popular right now. And I also think that it sometimes gets skewed, and like many things out in the world with mental health, it has varying definitions depending on what you would like it to mean for you. And in truth, boundaries are for us. They are set by us. They are to help us be in healthy relationships. They are not rules. They are not parameters for other people to live within. They are our limits for being in a healthy relationship. What do we need to do and what do we need to receive in order to feel good in a relationship? In the same sort of vein, self-care, another thing that has been all over the place and manipulated and used in a variety of ways to usually sell you some sort of product. But in reality, the idea of it as of now, it has a whole history that's completely different. But for now, what it means, at least in the mental health world, is exactly what it sounds like. Taking care of yourself in a way that is renewing, not selfish, and not harmful to anybody else. And so when I work with people, especially around the holiday times, we work a lot on boundaries and self-care. What does it look like? What's going to be renewing to you? What is going to help you from a boundaries perspective to be able to have healthy and even joyful memories with family and friends during this time? How can you set them? And then how can you process the emotional pieces of setting them? Because setting boundaries isn't easy work. And self-care often isn't easy work. And it's not always something that we want to do. For me, self-care is working out and exercising. And I don't like either of those things. But I know that my self feels better and has more energy and oomph to be able to take on the day if I'm taking care of this body by exercising it and moving it. Boundaries, for me, are getting easier as I get older. I understand that there's going to be blowback from some of them. I understand that not everybody likes them when you set them. I also understand that they are key to my peace of mind. When they get really difficult is when I have to set them for myself, with myself. That relationship is vital, the ones we have with ourselves. And it is maybe my most difficult relationship, the one I have with me. And so that brings us to today. I have been in a season of great change. There's some personal stuff going on. There's some health stuff going on. There's been some family stuff going on for like the last 2 years. Not all bad. Some of it great, some of it exciting, some of it new, but just a lot. And I've been plugging along, making this podcast or the one right before it ever since and through all of it. And occasionally I'll have some replay episodes and occasionally I'll take a break. But for the most part, I've been chugging along since 2020. I'm talking to you guys week in and week out. And I've loved it. I really have. And I have also recently been considering doing it a little differently. If you've been around with me from the beginning, we've had a bunch of names. We've been on a bunch of different platforms. We've changed format to some degree. Most recently with the I Wonder, evolution, we put that online on YouTube and we've done a lot of videos around it and we've tried to sort of get the message out far and wide. And I've really liked that. And I've really liked the YouTube piece. It sort of makes me feel connected to my roots of blogging back way back in the early 2000s when I was a blogger and social media was in its infancy and YouTube was sort of the first thing. And we started putting our lives online and in video as well as in writing. So being on YouTube sort of makes me feel like that. And for a while, my YouTube channel has mostly just been this podcast, but reshot and reformatted for YouTube. And recently I was talking to my producer and I said, I really like being on YouTube, and I really feel like there's a community around YouTube that I enjoy the back and forth with. Podcasts is great, but sometimes it just feels like I'm talking at you and I don't really know. Are you getting anything out of it? Are you hearing what you need? Are you asking, do you have questions? Whereas on YouTube, I get that. I get people asking questions. I sometimes right there, right under the video, or sometimes I'll get an email that's like, hey, I just saw this thing and I wondered about this and I wanted to know about this. And so I've really been sort of pulled more and more toward YouTube a little bit and wanting more to be on that. There is a way to do both. I've been doing both. But I know in the new year, I would really like to be more present there in that community. My whole mission with this podcast from the very beginning was to create community. I know people are starved for it. The irony of the fact that I started this podcast pre-pandemic is not lost on me. And the increased need for community post-pandemic is also not lost on me. I need that connection. I know many of you want that connection. And I know from talking to so many of you in various ways that you would really like to connect with each other. And so my hope in the new year is to take the I Wonder podcast and the I Wonder YouTube channel and turn it into an I Wonder community. I'll still be here every week. I'll still be talking about the things you asked me to talk about. And I'm going to be more present on YouTube in a variety of different ways. Coming back to the boundaries and the self-care, I need a little bit of time to figure all that out, to just get quiet for a moment. And honestly, to focus on my physical health for a little while in a way that allows me to come back to this work 100% wholly present and ready to go. So what does that mean? You are listening to this sometime around the beginning of the holiday season, as far as we've probably passed Halloween and we're heading into Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas and any other things that I don't know about that are part of that season. And I know there are many. Mid-November, mid to late November, and then we're going to bump all the way into 2025. In the interim, there will be podcasts. There will be some of my favorites that we're going to replay and repackage and bring back to you again. And we're not going anywhere. I'm just taking a break. I'm taking 4 to 6 weeks off of planning and recording and writing and all of the things I do behind the scenes before I get here. I'm maybe going to not wear so much eye makeup. I'm maybe going to stay out of the lights for a little while, but I'm still going to be planning and getting ready for 2025 to include community and include more connection and not just me talking at you through your headphones. I'm so grateful to everybody who listens. I'm so grateful to everybody who logs onto the YouTube channel and clicks on those videos and asks the questions and starts the conversations. That is why I'm here. And it just lights me up inside when I see other people interacting and getting something out of all of this. Nothing pleases me more. So we will be back with live, weekly, maybe even more than once a week stuff on YouTube, and definitely live weekly podcasts still here. You don't have to go anywhere. You're already subscribed. We're still coming back. And in the meantime, you'll have something to listen to every week that maybe you haven't heard before. And if the episode that shows up in your news feed or in your feed on your podcast channel, if you've like, oh, I've already listened to her talk about that, go back, listen to some more, find some other episodes, whether it was from the I Wonder podcast or whether it's from Ask Your Mother or any of the other iterations of this podcast prior to that. Just go back and listen and maybe you'll hear something you really like. I've done some amazing interviews. I've done a couple really great episodes that I got a lot of feedback on that people really liked. And if you missed them, it's always a great time to go back and hear more. Whatever the case, I appreciate you being here. We're coming back live and in person, or at least in your video screen very soon. And stay tuned for that community building piece, because there's going to be other elements to it too that I'm excited to share. In the meantime, keep listening, stay curious, and take care of you. Thanks.